You can click off the video now. I just ruined it. Anyways, I'm reviewing Mothra. I tend to love Godzilla, Toho movies and stuff. And I haven't seen every Godzilla movie. I can't really imagine who has. There's so many. Like, it's honestly ridiculous. But, you know, I love Mothra. And this movie is actually the original Mothra. Has never been released on Blu-ray until they released it in this steelbook released by Mill Creek. And they also are releasing Ultraman stuff. And I've done reviews for a lot of that stuff. Well, not a lot. I'm doing more, but I'm planning to do more reviews for that stuff. But I've done a few. I did Ultraman Q, and I also reviewed the Ultraman Netflix series, which they have not put out on Blu-ray because, you know, Netflix exclusive. But this show is, you know, Ultraman's pretty cool if you want to check out those reviews. And if you like Godzilla stuff, you like Ultraman. And if you like Godzilla stuff, you like I should state, though, I did watch the Japanese version. If I decide there's enough differences in the English version after I do watch it, I should, I will make a video on it. But at most, my next Surviving the Coronavirus video will be, I'll probably talk about it there. If I watch it in time. I'm not sure. But, you know, I may talk about it, I may not talk about it, is the point. I like Mothra. It's a pretty cool movie, I guess. What I like about these movies is that the giant monsters, in a lot of American movies, they're just giant monsters and they die in the end. And, you know, that's kind of the thing. A lot of the Ray Harryhausen movies. I can't remember if it's the original King Kong. There's one of the King Kong movies where he dies at the end. I think it was the original. I don't think I've actually ever seen the original King Kong. That's something I need to do at some point. I believe it's out of print on Blu-ray, so I've never watched it. But yeah, King Kong is, is like, there's one of them where he dies. I may even be wrong on that, honestly. I need to watch more King Kong movies. Especially since I like Godzilla and I want to watch them finally on big screen. But, you know, a lot of those movies the monsters are treated as just monsters. They're obstacles that create all this destruction and they must die. And Ultraman does that a little bit too. But in Godzilla movies, even some of the ones we make in the US, Godzilla is actually the hero sometimes, and he actually defends us from the monsters, because there's the good monsters and the bad monsters, right? Ultraman is the good guy, and then the other monsters that he fights are the bad ones. So, you know, they're treated as protectors, and I think that's a unique perspective on like these giant monster movies. And that's why I think Japanese ones are so much fun and unique, because, you know, they're almost like superheroes, basically. Like, Godzilla is a superhero. I mean, he didn't start out that way, but he, kind of developed into that over time. And, Mothra did this in his very first appearance. I think this is a fun movie. All these monster movies like this are really fun to watch. If you've never actually sat down and watched a monster movie like this, like a classic monster movie, like a movie where, like, it's just, the focus is the monster. It's people going, oh my gosh, this monster is destroying the city or whatever. And it's a lot of watching that destruction happen. They're really fun to watch. I should state, though, the Japanese version does have, subtitles. But I prefer to watch things from other countries and other cultures within their native language, as long as, of course, it's subtitled. Because if it's not subtitled, I will turn it off. Because frankly, if I don't speak the language, there's no point in watching it, of course. But I like doing that because these are things that come from cultures we don't understand. So and I think, we in America try to change things so much from that culture that it's like, am I even really watching the original version of this film. The original Godzilla is the Japanese version is significantly better, and the English version butchers it and changes way too much, and it's really edited, and it's just, this is a culture who has different rules on censorship and things like that, and we should respect the film and try to change it just enough that people will understand it, but we shouldn't change the art and integrity of the film. So yeah, I think there should be English versions of these movies for people wanting to watch these movies in English, but for the most part, I prefer Japanese versions. There are sometimes I don't, but you know, it's very rare. And I think the music in this movie is fantastic. Like, I love the score, and just like, you know, the Mothra song is great, but you know, like, I love the score. Honestly, if this score was, I don't know if this was released in vinyl in the US. A lot of Japanese movies have amazing scores, and yet a lot of them are not released in the US, which is unfortunate, because I'd love to have the score to this movie. The score to this movie is fantastic. I think all the performances are fantastic. Though it's really hard for me to like measure how good a performance is from like, you know, from people from culture I don't understand. I mean, you know, so basically how I rate people who give performances in like Japanese movies and stuff. I would just look at their facial expressions and how much I'm able to read from these facial expressions alone, you know, because I obviously don't always understand what's coming out of their mouth, and I have to use the subtitles to understand. So, you know, I basically look at the face and how much I'm able to read from that, and I think the performances were quite excellent here. I also think a lot of the effects, while cheesy, are pretty good. Like, I know people like to rag on this stuff for looking lame and kind of corny, but I think it actually looks better than some of the like new Godzilla stuff. I mean, obviously it's better like effects wise and stuff, but like there's something more pure about like the models and you know, the puppets and the rubber suits and things. I mean, obviously there's not rubber suits in here considering Mothra is a giant moth, but you know, there's just something more pure about that type of stuff in these types of movies. And I think just like the effects that we do here, it's like, yeah, I get it. People would not be okay with that type of stuff. Even in Japan, they stopped kind of doing that as much. But I mean, there's something just more pure about it, and entertaining, and just, I don't know, something about it I just love more than, you know, a lot of the stuff we do now. Of course, that may be a subjective thing. Some people will be bothered by it, and I understand it, but I don't know. You know, honestly, I've always said that we should not make American adaptations of Godzilla or these types of things, because, you know, Godzilla and Mothra are representations of many things from these cultures, and when we do our American adaptations, it's not like we're adapting Ringu into The Ring, and they're kind of just basically the same movie, you know, based on the same idea, you know, but one has, you know, and, you know, they're not that different in movies if you watch Ringu or The Ring. They're pretty much the same exact movie, just with some minor tweaks that make parts of one better than the other one. But, you know, with that, it doesn't take away from the culture that much. With Godzilla is a representation of what happened during Hiroshima, or however you say it. I have a really hard time saying that. Every time I try to say it, I can't say it properly. But Godzilla was a representation of what happened to this culture. That bomb went down, and people died. And so for quite a while in Japan, there was this fear that they were just, you know, you could just die in the middle of the night. A bomb could just go off and you could all die. And that was a big fear within the country. And so Godzilla is kind of a representation of the bomb, at least the first Godzilla. And a lot of these other monsters are kind of like that, you know? And so these became symbols of hope and a brighter future in Japan. Same thing with a lot of anime. That's where anime started coming from. Of course, there was manga a little bit before this, but manga developed into anime and a lot of things like that. And so it became a big thing, and it was really because of that horrible tragedy that happened that actually changed Japan as a country, I think for the better. And when we just take that, we're just making dumb, like stupid monster movies. Godzilla King of Monsters is really dumb. It's not but I guess it's dumb in a fun way, and I enjoy it for what it is. But for me, it just doesn't mean the same anymore. Even like Shin Godzilla, one of the most recent Godzilla movies made in Japan. That movie has stuff to say about its culture in Japan, and just what it means. What does Godzilla King of Monsters have to say about our culture? You know what I mean? Obviously, it'd be disrespectful to have things to say about our culture, but I mean, that's why I don't like it as much. It just doesn't have that much to say about our culture, so that's enough debate on that stuff. But I thought people should hear my opinion on it, and one day I should do a video on just like Godzilla stuff as a whole, because I definitely want to watch, like, do a marathon in like over several months where I watch like all the Godzilla movies, all the Godzilla shows. But that'd be a really long time to do all that. But yeah, I'm excited to check this out, or the English version out of this. But I really recommend the Japanese version. It is excellent, and if you like this type of giant monster movies, and you're okay with the Japanese version, I really recommend this. Also, if you're just a fan of Godzilla, Ultraman, any of that type of rubber suits and just cheesy stuff like that, I think this is I think this is one of the better ones. I think this one has the most to say artistically, and I also think this is just like one of the better made ones as a film. Like, it's able to be enjoyed without like it being cheesy. Like Ultraman's very cheesy in a good way. It's fun and it's enjoyable, but like this actually has something to say. It's really well made, and I think this is why it's one of those films that's just enjoyed by a lot of cinephiles, even though it has never been released on Blu-ray up to this point. And now we finally have it on Blu-ray in this glorious steelbook, and it has an audio commentary with authors and Japanese sci-fi historians and things like that. It's got a photo gallery. It's got one of the original trailers. It's got the Japanese and US versions, of course, and that I believe one of them has an additional 11 minutes. I think that's the US version. I'm not exactly sure on that, but yeah, I think this is, if you really like this, I bought what did I get this for? I got this for like $11, $15, somewhere in there. $15, pretty good deal for a steelbook, and these are better than normal steelbooks, because if you've ever seen these, like a normal steelbook is this, and this, of course, it's nice and all. I love this steelbook, but you always have to worry about it getting scratched or dinged up, like if you drop it or something. Obviously, I try to be very careful with it. But this, it's not impossible. Like, I think mine actually came dented up. I don't know if you can see that there. It's kind of dented up. There's a little bit of glare, but, but it's still easier to keep safe with this going over it. It keeps it a lot more safe, and it's really nice, and you're paying less than I, would have paid for this steelbook at Best Buy or something. They went like $35 for a new movie steelbook. $15 for a new movie steelbook, and it's easier to keep safe and clean. I can't see a better deal than that right there. But yeah, stay tuned for more Japanese stuff like this, because I'm actually an enthusiast for this stuff, I would say. I like Japanese movies. I definitely want to do a video on Seven Samurai at one point, but it's just a really difficult video to do. It's a very time-consuming movie. It's over 3 hours, and you have to be in the right mood to watch it, and it's very engaging. It's very excellent, and you should watch it, but it's just like it's a difficult movie to really sit down and watch, because you really have to be ready for that film.